I'm Jill, co-owner and chef of Good Neighbor Brews in Wiley, Texas, and this is Beer Necessities. Simple tips using beer in your everyday cooking. Today we're going to brine a turkey. The concept of brining is soaking your turkey or your chicken or poultry in a solution of salt water. The idea is that the salt permeates the meat and makes a more flavorful bird. The reason why I think this is so important with a turkey is because when you have a turkey, your surface area that you can actually season is very low compared to the amount of meat in a turkey. This is a 16-pound bird. My opinion is you want 15 to 16 pounds is about right. Bigger they get, the more difficult it is to cook them well. So when you get past 16 pounds, 15, 16 pounds, you're not going to be able to cook it in a way that isn't going to be dry, really, no matter what you do to it. You could make the argument that you can deep fry it. It's going to be pretty good. Anything deep fried is good, but we're not doing that today. Today we're doing a brine for a regular roast turkey. Like I was saying before about the importance of a brine, this gives you an example. So if you were to season with just salt and pepper on the outside of your bird, this is all skin, so you're really not going to permeate the meat very much. And then if you season your cavity, you also really don't get too much of the meat. So you have these huge amounts of meat here that just aren't touched by the salt. Without salt, you really can't taste your food. It's part of your neuroreceptors. We're going to soak it in this salt solution, and that way all of the seasoning gets inside. The fun part is too, you can add other things to your brine and bring in whatever flavors you prefer. Just in case you've never bought a turkey before, I'm going to show you how a turkey comes. They take a while to defrost. If you buy a frozen bird and you're planning on cooking it on Thanksgiving and Thursday, you probably need to buy your bird by Sunday or Monday of that week. It's going to take most of the week to defrost in the refrigerator. Be careful, buy your bird early and take your time. When you do the brine, you're gonna need 24 hours at least to let the bird brine. You're talking about getting your bird definitely the weekend before Thanksgiving, and like everybody else's. So defrosted 16-pound bird. I removed the, this is a thermometer that the turkey companies put in for you. It's actually, I don't ever use them. They're supposed to pop up when the bird is done, but they're set to pop up when your meat is actually overcooked. So I just take them out. Inside, you're gonna have a turkey neck. I saved this. We're gonna go over this on another video. I actually think this is a really useful, kind of an odd thing. I use it quite a bit on sauces and gravies and stocks, and we're gonna go over that on another video. You may get a random ice chunk in here. I just take them out. Turkeys are unique in that you will have a bag of the turkey offal meat, the giblets. Some people make giblet gravy with this. I personally don't. That's just not something I like to make or know how to make all that well. So I just microwave it and give it to my dog. Now our turkey is emptied out. So this turkey does have a, they truss it for you with a little plastic trussing that holds the legs together. I leave that on. And then this bit here, depending on how your turkey was butchered, you know, you're gonna have this extra bit of skin. You can fold it up. I just trim it off. There's really no purpose for it. You know, it also can kind of burn a little bit. So we leave it like that. And lastly, talking about turkeys in general, this is just a regular grocery store basic turkey. You're certainly welcome to try an organic or a heritage turkey. The grocery store turkeys, the cheapest you can find, are gonna work just fine. Around the holidays, you'll find some really good bargains on these. So our bird is trimmed and cleaned out and defrosted. You can use a chef's knife to trim the skin off of your bird. I often use scissors or kitchen shears. You do wanna make sure that whatever scissors you use go into the dishwasher immediately. All right, we're ready to start making our brine. So we've got a regular stock pot. I'm gonna keep my brine dimensions or recipes very simple. Essentially, you're gonna do a gallon of liquid, 2 cups of salt. I just use regular kosher salt, I prefer it, and 1 cup of sugar. You can use brown or white sugar. You can really use any sweetener you prefer, you know, honey, agave nectar, all those things are pretty interchangeable. So that's a basic brine. When we get ready to store our turkey, we're gonna add some ice. So that does increase your liquid, but we'll get to that in a moment. So we've got 2 cups of kosher salt going in and 1 cup of brown sugar. It fluffs up a lot. And because we're a brewery and we have more access to beer than most people, and I just prefer the flavor of it, instead of water, I use beer. You can use almost any beer in a brine. You can use a saison, you can use a pale ale, you can use a blonde, you can use a bock, you can even use a sour if that's the flavor you like. But I will say that I would not use a stout on a turkey. A stout has a lot of flavor of coffee and chocolate that I just personally think doesn't match all that well to turkey. You're welcome to try it. It's just not my preferred flavor profile. The recipe is going to be 2 6-packs of your favorite beer, whatever you prefer. All right. So this is a standard sachet. I use it in almost every savory preparation that I make. Now this is a pretty ginormous one. This is kind of a lot of herbs, but I think that's okay. The standard mix is bay leaf, thyme, 1 standard bunch of flat leaf parsley, especially on something like a turkey because it's quite a bit of meat. I am using dried bay leaves. I prefer fresh bay leaves, I just don't have any, but that also doesn't make a huge difference if they're fresh or not. If you don't have access to the herbs, like this is kind of an optional thing. It's just something that I do like to use. You can tie these together using a piece of butcher's twine. I do like to tie them together if I have the string, because then when you put them into the pot, you can tie your string onto the side of your pot and it just makes it easier to remove. So this is our basic beer brine here. This could be completed. You do not have to add anything else to this if you don't want to. You can boil it and proceed on. I'm going to show you some options for some other aromatics to add that I personally like and have used before. You can use all or none or a combination, whatever works for you. I encourage you to really try whatever flavors you like. You know, this is your recipe, so have fun with it. We're gonna do 2 tablespoons of black peppercorns. This is some cut up lemon. I leave the skin and everything on. You're not gonna eat this and no one else is either, so you don't have to remove the seeds or peel it or anything like that. This is 3 whole lemons. I did remove a little bit of the stem, but that's not necessary. This is some green apple. I love this with turkey because it's seasonal. You can always remember flavor profiles. An easy trick for flavor profiles are what grows at the same time and what grows in the same areas. So if you think about a turkey lives in the forest and that apples are also a tree, it can kind of help you think about what's going to go together. Some white onion. This is 2 white onions. I have taken the outer skin off, but like I said, that's not necessary. This is some whole ginger, fresh. I didn't peel it, but I did cut it up a little bit just to increase the surface area. I like the heat of fresh ginger, and that's what I'm adding it for. My pot is getting pretty full, so I'm not going to add these things today, but I am going to tell you celery is another good one. It's hatch green chili season here in Texas right now, so I got some hatch green chilies just because I like them. And also some oranges. It can replace your lemon, it can replace your apple, or it can go with it. I mean, they're all good flavors. So now we're going to bring our brine to a boil to dissolve our salt and our sugar into the liquid. I just turn my heat all the way up, bring it to a boil as quickly as I can. While we're waiting for our brine to come to a boil, let's talk about how we're going to store our turkey while it brines. I prefer to let them go a full 24 hours for cooking it. So you got to think about your food safety. Where is your turkey going to be safe while it's brining for 24 hours or so? I prefer to use a clean 5-gallon bucket. You can buy these at any Walmart or Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere like that, with a lid. If you have buckets like this and you're going to use a bucket that has been used previously, you need to make sure that it hasn't been used for any chemical use or anything like that. If you have empty ones that you use around the house, fine. But if it's stored paint or any other cleaning product or chemical, I wouldn't use it. Once you've cooked your turkey, you're gonna need to really wash this and bleach it out. I use the bucket because I have an extra refrigerator here at our house. So we have a beer fridge. If you don't have a beer fridge, another very good option and can be safe to use is what they call a construction cooler. It's an insulated cooler. I like the kind that have a spout on the bottom because it makes it easier to clean and easier to get the brine out when you're finished with it, and also a lid. Same principle applies here. It needs to be very clean. You do need to make sure that whatever was used, it was used before. It wasn't anything toxic. And then when you are finished with your whole project, when your turkey is cooked, you're gonna need to bleach this out. Even run bleach through your spout. If you are using beer as your brining liquid, like we are, be sure to use a large pot. You want to fill your pot no more than 3/4 of the way full, because of the carbonation in the beer is going to foam up a little bit. You don't need the carbonation as part of the flavor of the brine, so don't worry about all the bubbles will come out, and that's okay. It doesn't really play a role in this particular application of using beer. Okay, so our brine has now come to a boil. I've turned off the heat and we're letting it cool. You are not going to put your turkey into hot brine. This is something you have to be very careful about because your turkey's not cooked. We're not cooking it with the brine. You don't want to bring raw turkey up to funny temperatures. The actual temperatures are between 40 and 140 degrees. You don't ever want your turkey sitting between those temperatures. We don't want to heat our bird up at all at this point. The way I shortcut that is by adding ice. Now you don't have to add ice. You can just let your brine come to room temperature on its own, but it's faster, so that's why I add ice. I've got my clean 5-gallon bucket here. I'm gonna place it on the floor. The floor is clean. Now I'm gonna take my brine and I'm gonna add it to my bucket. So our brine is cooling down. We're gonna add to it half a bag. This was a 15-pound, 16-pound bag of ice that we just got from the regular grocery store. We're gonna add half of that to our brine bucket. So that brings our bucket to just a little bit more than halfway full. That's what we want. And we have the majority of our ice is still ice, okay? So we've got a mix of liquid and ice. That's exactly what we want, so that it keeps our turkey cool. We have all of our flavor. We have room in the bucket for our turkey because we don't want to overflow. So we are good now to add our turkey to our bucket. I place my turkey, I kind of turn it upside down like this. The feet are gonna go in last. So your wings are gonna go in first, and your feet are in last. Now that you have your brine and your ice and your turkey all together, your temperature of your brining liquid should be about 32 degrees. Not frozen, has salt in it, so it's not gonna be 30 degrees. It's gonna be about 32. So I do like to check my temperatures intermittently throughout the 24 hours just to make sure that you're not getting your turkey in a place where you can have some food safety issues. That's something you have to be really careful with turkeys because they're so big and they take so long to work with. We are all set there. We're gonna put our lid on. This just prevents any of the liquid seeping out or spilling on anything while we're letting our turkey brine. We don't want any of this liquid, accidentally getting on something else in your refrigerator. Now we're all set to put it into our beer fridge. If you do not have an extra refrigerator or room in your refrigerator to store a 5-gallon bucket, like I said before, use a construction cooler. So you do the exact process. You pour the liquid in here, you put your ice in, you put your turkey, the feet up, and you put your lid on. And if you live in a region where it's chilly outside, where it's colder, go ahead and put this in your garage somewhere where it's not gonna get disturbed. Okay, that's best for it. If you don't live in an area where it gets colder, try to stick it somewhere out of the way that people are not gonna be bumping it. You don't want it on top of anything. You don't want it in a position where it can drip on something. You always wanna keep it as low as you possibly can. A little stool you can sit in a cold corner of your kitchen, something like that. Even your pantry maybe on the bottom, that kind of place where it doesn't get disturbed. But just keep in mind that you don't want it sitting above food at all where anything can potentially drip on it. And if you use a construction cooler, this is where I would really monitor your temperature of your liquid all the time, even if it means adding ice as you go. Always have ice visible in your construction cooler because you're not refrigerated otherwise. So this one you do have to be a little bit more careful with. Okay, so we have schlepped our turkey out here to the garage. The lid is on, the brine is in, the ice is in, everything is ready to go. I'm lucky enough that we have a separate refrigerator at our house in the garage. What I'm gonna do is put the turkey in the refrigerator for approximately 24 hours. I am gonna do another video about roasting the turkey, so stay tuned to that. It's coming up. We're gonna do a whole separate thing on that. That is how you beer brine a turkey. Like I said, the beer is optional, but why wouldn't you use it if you have it? Thank you for tuning in and stick with us. Keep in mind, recipes are just suggestions. So always have fun with it. Don't be afraid to make it your own version. Okay, see you later, neighbors.